welcome back to Ash Art Books. I'm here today to do my November part 2 wrap up because it is now December 1st. Yay. I also wanted to apologize for not having a new video out last week, but with the Thanksgiving holiday and then going back to work from the Thanksgiving holiday, I just got a little bit behind. But I am here now and I'm excited to talk about the books that I read. So all of the books I read for the second half of the month were on my Kindle. Not sure why, just the way it happened, but I will show you guys the cover and then I'll put them down below. So the first one I read was A Holiday by Gaslight by Mimi Matthews. I adored this novella. So this is the first book I've read by this author and I loved it. So it was a novella, so it wasn't super short, but obviously it wasn't normal length. For this book, I've heard other people compare it to like a take on North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell, and I absolutely love like that movie and book. So, and I could see it after I heard them say that. So this book follows Sophie and Ned. Sophie is from a very kind of well-to-do family, but they've also kind of fallen on hard times money-wise, but their name still means a lot and they've got like a grand estate. And then Ned is basically a self-made man. So he's made all his money from manufacturing and really has a name in the business end. But I feel like the aristocracy still kind of looks down on him a little bit because he made his money. But he's very proud of where he came from and he has decided he should probably get married. So in the beginning of the book, Sophie basically tells him, you know what, this is just not working. It's been like 2 months of them courting. He's super quiet, he's super stoic. She says, I just don't think this is gonna work. And so she basically like breaks up with him. And you get both perspectives, so you get to see what he's thinking as well. And he is like crushed because he's a very quiet guy, but he really was head over heels for her. So I was kind of like, where is this going? But basically circumstances happen that perhaps make Sophie kind of think again about the relationship. And it was kind of about them coming together. I loved it. So the other side of this story is kind of the whole gaslight or modernization side, which I was so interested in. So basically, during this time in the mid to late 1800s, you know, gaslight was becoming a thing in houses and a lot of modernization was kind of starting to happen. And Sophie's dad, I'm pretty sure her name's Sophie. I'm gonna feel really bad if I'm saying the wrong name, but I think it is. Her dad is kind of obsessed with modernizing their huge estate to the point where he's taking all the family money and putting it towards this. And it's just Sophie's about to be set over the edge and he is not a nice person. So I thought that was really interesting to read about as well. And that was definitely a very large storyline in the story. So if you're a history buff, that part was really interesting as well. I just loved this book. It was 5 out of 5 stars. The cover is gorgeous. If you want one holiday novella, probably recommend this one, although the next one's really good as well. The next book I read was another novella, and it was Christmastide with His Countess by Ellie St. Clare. This is the first book I've read by this author as well, so I found 2 new authors that I definitely want to read more from. And I was like, I think I gave this one 5 as well, 5 stars out of 5. So this one is kind of like a second chance in a way. So these 2 characters basically are in an arranged marriage at the very beginning of the book. They're in a church getting married and it's the first time they've ever met. Basically it's what their family wants, they don't want it, and they're just trying to like get through this situation. So Hunter, our male character, is very involved in Parliament and he really loves his position there and takes it very seriously. So he intends to move back to London and our female character Scarlett wants nothing to do with this. So they basically go their separate ways. He goes to London, she goes to the country estate, and they are technically married but really have nothing to do with each other for I think it's like 3 or 4 months. So then it gets to Christmas time and circumstances bring Hunter home, and basically the story is about them kind of finding love and kind of finding each other because even though they're married, they know absolutely nothing about each other. And I just really loved it. Sometimes this trope doesn't work for me, and this one really did. I felt like you really saw them kind of breaking down those walls, and it was really cute because Scarlett loves Christmas, and so she was kind of having him go through all these different like holiday traditions, and it was just adorable. It was a novella as well, so it was a little bit on the shorter side, and I would love to read a whole book about this couple. I loved them. Definitely check this one out as well. Both of these holiday novellas, if you're looking for something short but with like really good substance, highly recommend. So then I read a series, so I'm obviously gonna really just talk about the first book as to not spoil it, but I read 3 books and it was in the BearPaw Resort series by Cambria Hebert. The first one is called Avalanche, the second one was called Blizzard, and the third one was called frostbite. There it is. So as you know, or may not know, Cambria Hebert wrote the #Nerd series, which is one of my all-time favorite book series. I love it. And this is her newest kind of series she's writing, and it takes place at a ski resort. So it's perfect for this time of year. It's like warm and cozy vibes, kind of. So in this book, our main character is Bellamy, and our other main character is Liam. And they met when they were 16 at the ski resort because Liam's family owns it, and they kind of fell head over heels. It was a very quick relationship. So basically they were in love at 16, 17, and then something happens that kind of tore them apart. Obviously it was gonna be hard anyway. She was on vacation, but so basically they got torn apart and haven't seen each other in I think it's like 7 or 8 years. So they're in their mid-20s now. And circumstances have happened that have brought Bellamy on the run for her life. So this story definitely has a very big mystery aspect and kind of a suspense aspect as well, which is different for her. She hasn't, I don't think, written that before in her books as much. So Bellamy is in trouble. She's running for her life, and the place she thinks of to go is the ski resort that she kind of has fond memories of, but she's really hoping she does not run into Liam. Because of the circumstances that split them apart, she does not want to see him. So obviously she runs into him, and things kind of go from there. It's basically about their relationship, and there's this mystery of who's after Bellamy, and there's a whole storyline with Liam and his family as well. I really enjoyed it. I love the way that Cambria Hebert can write found families, and how friendship and who you choose as your family is such a big part of your family. It doesn't always have to be blood related. She just does such a great job with that. I will say, even though I like it, Liam is definitely an alpha male in his protectiveness. So if that's something that kind of gets on your nerves, maybe don't pick this series up, because he's definitely very protective and I'm gonna look after you. And I know sometimes that's not everyone's cup of tea. I really thought it was great. But everyone has their own choice. I also will say, because they knew each other before, when they got back together, relationship was very quick. It was very almost insta-lovey, but that's because I think they knew each other from before and kind of never felt out of love in a way. So it worked for me, but again, if that's one of your things you really don't like in books, the insta love, maybe don't pick this one up. But I love the whole series. I read books 1, 2, and 3, all about the same couple, and I thought it had a really good conclusion. I thought it kind of was paced really well. I didn't think it was dragged out too much, and I really loved it. The last book I read this month was The Wish Collector by Mia Sheridan. And this one was possibly my favorite book I've read this month, with one other one. I loved it. So Mia Sheridan is one of my favorite authors. She wrote Archer's Voice, and that's one of my favorite books. And this one was right up there with it. This book was full of kind of magic, mystery, a little bit of mystery thrown in there. It has history and a really beautiful love story. So this book takes place in New Orleans, and our main character, Clare, has just moved here to become a ballerina, or she is a ballerina, and she's in the ballet. And she's kind of having a little bit of a hard time, just feeling kind of lonely. So she hears this legend from her neighbor, who's amazing. And it's this legend about this house and this woman named Angelina, who was a slave back in Civil War times. And there's this whole legend about her and her kind of tragic past. And there's this wall around this mansion house called the Weeping Wall, and they say you can make a wish at this wall. And so she kind of just figures, I'm gonna go put a wish in at this wall. And when she goes, she hears someone behind the wall. And it turns out his name is Jonah, and the book actually starts with his perspective. And you see kind of his past, and it turns out in the past he was a lawyer, kind of a hotshot, all this stuff, and then it flashes forward to him kind of secluded behind these walls in this big house. So basically the story is just about them forming a relationship together, and I loved it so much. It had flashbacks to the past of in the Civil War times about that couple and the legend. It had Jonah, who had a really tragic thing happen to him, and he feels like he doesn't deserve any kind of forgiveness. Then there's Clare, who's dealing with a lot on her side. It was just so beautiful. I might do a whole book review on this, because I feel like I could talk about it for hours. But if you want a really just beautifully written book with just such heartwarming relationship, I definitely recommend this, or any of Mia Sheridan's books. I think they're all great. But this one was absolutely top notch, 5 out of 5 stars. I want to go buy it ASAP in physical form. But I just thought it had everything you want. It had the New Orleans vibes. It just had perfect it was just perfect. So definitely recommend. Okay guys, so those are all the books I read for the second half of November. Let me know what you guys are reading or what you're enjoying. I am definitely looking forward to some December reading and some Christmas reads. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.